What is going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke. Hopefully everyone enjoyed round one, but here gonna break down what to expect Friday at the Memorial, both from the props and PGA DFS perspective. Today was the carnage that we were all hoping for, and even more so than I was expecting. I thought it would play maybe about half a stroke under par in the morning, and for a little bit there, it was actually playing slightly under par, but as soon as those greens got in the oven, they started to just firmen up ever so slightly, while the scoring averages just skyrocketed. By the end of the morning wave, it played about a stroke over, and then by the afternoon wave, it played an entire 3 strokes over par. So that's just a little bit of a precursor of what to expect throughout the weekend. This is going to be a major championship type of test. You're likely to see a winning score. If I had to put a barometer on it, probably in like the 6-7 under par range, if not worse than that. You're looking at that difficult of a golf course. In fact, I would argue that this track's even more difficult than an Oak Hill. So it's going to get fun. The winds are going to dictate a lot of that winning score action. And if you're looking for the showdown edge, it is going to be massive, right? Like I said, about a 2-stroke difference between the two waves. And considering we have a similar kind of forecast in the works for tomorrow, it's probably going to shape up that same kind of way. So I'm excited for it. See a few of you already down there in chat. What's going on, Jeff? He said, we got the pot guider eagles. That's right. He had 2 of them. One of them was a tap-in eagle at that, nearly an albatross. Kid's an absolute stud. He did make 8 bogeys, which, offsets some of that work, of course. But a high upside, only 18-year-old kid that's got a super bright future. I didn't play him this week, but I'm glad to see him having that success. That's pretty sweet for sure. What's going on, Mark? He's not too happy about KHLE. Me neither. You're saying it should be legal to hunt him down. Oh boy. James is rooting for the carnage. I love it. And I can't wait to read the book later. I love it, Town Tizzle. It just came out today, by the way, guys. If you pre-ordered it, if you took it at that link for the pre-order price, now it's live on Amazon, so you can check that out too. But let's hop into this course preview. Take a look at the weather for tomorrow and get an idea of how to attack this slate, right? Both for fantasy and for props. So in terms of your scoring average, like I already alluded to about that 2-stroke difference, in terms of your ceiling performances, that's where things get thrown a little bit off here. So we'll get to that here in a second. So Davis Riley, right, PM Wave golfer, shut the round of the day. You had guys like Jordan Spieth was 4 under par through 17 holes, right? Ended up at 3 under par. You had Rory, who was 3 under par through 17 holes, right? Ended up at even par with his triple bogey on the last hole. You still had some scores out there. And the further down the board you go, you'll see a few more of them tick up there from the PM wave. So it wasn't like it was all AM guys up there. I will say the AM guys outnumber the PM guys up top. But part of the reason the scoring average was so different was because of these low 2 outliers. You had a Billy Ho, a Chad Ramey, both shoot, an 84, also an 88 out there. Just ridiculous clown type scores out there that you don't see very often. Dylan Fratelli was one of the stinkers from the AM wave, right? I don't even know what he was at that point. He was at least like 10, 12 over par by the time that he ended up withdrawing. Those kind of outliers, have a drastic impact on this average. So I would say the real difference between the two waves probably wasn't the whole 2 shots. I mean, even at the bottom of the board, you had a lot of blow-up performances like Thurston Lawrence, who I loved this week, actually. He blew the hell up, right? Same thing with like a Molinari and Adam Long, a lot of these PM Wave golfers. So that was why it was such a drastic difference, right? That's why it was a whole 2-stroke difference. You still had a few guys from the PM Wave that went out there and had success. The unfortunate part is that today, right, they didn't have that huge win split. Well, tomorrow they are going to have that huge win split. You can see down here on windy.com, we'll look at a few of the different models on here, but all of them are calling for a huge differential between the morning conditions and then what you're going to see for the PM wave. So morning tomorrow on this model, you can see is relatively calm, right? Which is not going to play easy, right? So don't kid yourself out there. It's still going to be relatively difficult. Oh, I stopped sharing my screen. Sorry about that. Let's bring it back up. It's still going to be relatively difficult, right? Even with relatively low winds. But in the afternoon wave, look at this, right? Gets closer to 8 to 10 miles an hour of sustained winds. It's actually not, sorry. It goes to like 10 to 12 miles an hour knots out there. I keep saying miles an hour. I'm so used to it. I'm sure there's a way to change this on here. I'll have to do that at some point. But you can see when it gets really late, right, closer towards like 7 p.m. when they might be finishing up, they'll probably finish by 7, but I guess, the last few groups, I have to deal with it. It spikes up to 17 miles an hour. So it gets real severe there. You look at a few other models, this NEM model is calling for a similar type of split, right, where it's, super calm in the morning and then ramps up in the afternoon. This ECM model is calling for pretty severe conditions as well. You can see, again, that differential between the two waves. Pretty much no matter what model we look at is calling for harder conditions in the PM. So, today there was slightly higher winds, I would say, towards like 2, 3 p.m., but it wasn't anything that was blowing these guys off the course. If we're going to get 12, maybe 15 mile an hour winds, right, which some of these models are calling for in the PM wave tomorrow, well, that might be a different story, right? If it was a 2-shot difference today, you might see an even larger difference tomorrow. So if you were attacking the AM guys today, in general, you did well. In the large field GBP, I think you are going to have to mix in a few pivots to perhaps get to the top end of the board, right? Like you had to have Davis Riley to go out there and win the GBPs today. I'm going to be stacking the AM wave though, right? I want to lock in that 2-shot difference. I'm only entering like, at least for me in round 2, right? My strategy, it's worth noting, right, because we're going to go through my player pool as well. So I'm only entering 10 lineups in the large field GPP and doing about 5 different single entries. And rather than just using one single entry across those 5 different contests, I'm going to enter 5 different combinations. So my exposure for tomorrow is going to be a little bit different. My large field GPP stuff is just going to be cramming in a lot of these low owned plays, which you'll see we're getting to. As of right now, I have 10 reserved. My player pool is set for closer to like 20, maybe 25 lineups. I may end up adding some exposure. We'll see. Honestly, the contest for tomorrow, I probably should have brought them up. We can actually just do that real quick right here. They're not too bad. They're at least making them like decent, like okay. They're at least giving us some sort of selection to choose from. Sometimes it's like they have the main 20, right? They have a $5 little like GBP kind of contest, and then the single entries are ass. You take a look at tomorrow, right? They have a big 555. You don't always see that. The big $20 has 7,000 entries. Not the best contest, right? I'm just going to throw a few entries in there. Go down here to some of the single entries, right? You got a $100 single entry. This $10, I think it's an 18 max, is always a good contest to enter. If you're just trying to get a little bit of, let's say, like a smaller field GBP kind of exposure, that's a good way to go about it. But it could be worse. Like there's a lot of satellites. There's a lot of qualifiers that you can enter. That's not really my scene, but at least they're giving us contests. Sometimes for these, non-major fields, it's a pretty tough scene. But this time around, they're not giving us the complete shaft at the very least. Let's see what we've got going. And it's not perfect, right? They're not giving us a great selection, right? I'm not touting the selection by any means, but it could be worse. I guess what I'm getting at there. So if we're taking all AM wave golfers, right, that's going to keep us off of the Roms of the Schefflers of the world, right? And they could go out there, they could break the mold, still go super low, but they're getting ownership, right? Even Scotty, who shot 2 over par, I have it 17%. So if they were going to be true pivots, if he was going to be closer to like 12, 13%, then I might still play those guys. Because like I said, like a Davis Riley, was in the quote unquote shitty wave today, still got it done. It's still more than possible. So that puts me on guys like a Cantlay, a Xander that I faded for 4-round stuff. I'm playing Rory again, right, who had that triple bogey on the last hole. There's not a ton of guys up here in the AM wave, so we can pretty much play all of them, right? Especially because the ownership is spread out. It's not like everyone's only taking the AM wave golfers. I do think that in larger, let's say higher dollar, like higher stakes kind of contest, you will see an ownership, artificial increase in ownership on these AM wave golfers. But in a large field GPP where you have enough slapdicks, right, to pay the rake, to water down the player polls, to water down the skill level of the contest, you're not going to have to worry about that much steam on these kind of players. If you're playing like the 555, you're playing $100 single entry, I'd say anything higher stakes than that, then you are going to run into that kind of increased ownership. So just know that these numbers are meant for more like the $20 GBP kind of contest. So that's what is reflected over here on the right. And my player pool is also what is reflected for that kind of contest. So if you were in a higher stakes contest, like if I was playing the 555 here, I might consider playing Scotty. Like honestly, I think he'll be like closer to 10% in that kind of contest. Just because of everyone going out there trying to play the weather edge. That's almost where you want to leverage against like the smart moves, because in these, and I hate to say that, I hate to give away that strategy, but in these higher dollar single entry contests, you just like consume my content, other people that are doing Showdown content out there, and then, run, zig when they zag, essentially, right? Just go the other direction. And it's not because it's the better play from the median projection. It's not. It's because of the group think that happens in those contests, right? Everyone that's, putting money behind their picks. I don't want to say everyone, because I'm sure there's a few exceptions. Undoubtedly, there's going to be a few exceptions to this rule, but a vast majority of them are doing their research, right? Are watching, consuming this kind of content. And I know if I'm playing against those sort of players, that I can play against a lot of their biases. So again, I don't want to give away too much. I still play against you guys, right? I showed you guys my second place in the GBP. The guy that beat me actually commented on one of my videos and said that he watches it. So that was kind of funny. So I gotta remind myself at times, right, that I can help you guys out from the strategy perspective, but I can't always give you the nuts, right? Because I do have to try and beat you guys in a few contests. So if I was playing in the single entry kind of build, like this is where, and I'm not for tomorrow, I'll just full disclosure, I'm not going to be entering a bunch of 5-5-5 lineups. I might do like $100 single entry, right? Might mix in something like that. If I was going higher stakes though, I would be all over kind of just like going against what I know everyone's going to do. Like not even just me. Like I know other shows out there, other people that are doing videos are going to talk about the AM wave, right? They're going to post, tout these guys. They're going to talk about it was a 2-shot difference, right? Just like I did. So let's not kid ourselves, right? People are going to act on that. And this is the part of DFS that if you've been a part of my week in review streams, you know that I'm huge on talking about the meta of DFS. I don't think enough people consider this aspect of DFS, right? The content, the trends that we see, like, for example, weather edges when it comes to main slate have a huge impact in ownership. And I don't think people talk about that nearly enough. And it's not like built into the ownership projections before lock. We compare my ownership projections, others around the industry, to the actual ownership projections every single week, right? I do that there on that stream. And every time we have one of those weather edges to be had, there's 4 or 5% steam on those players up top. Mid-tier range, the popular 7K options are getting steamed up 4 or 5%. This is a real thing in main slate. It's a real thing in Showdown too. So just wanted to point that out. Let's catch up on chat. We've got a little bit of catching up to do down there. Scotty with the craziest sell job today. Yeah, that 6-man would have been great, but it happens. He played horribly off the tee, so it wasn't particularly close. So it wasn't like he waited until like 18 to miss the fairway for us. Those are the ones that are a little bit worse. Yeah, what a day. It was crazy out there. Thank God you faded Billy Ho. Same thing. I didn't play his ass. Do we like brothers Griffin, Lanto and Ben? It'd be funny if they were brothers. I think they have upside. I think that Ben Griffin might be a little chalky because of how he played, but I don't know if it's that much of a problem for me. What's his price? I know he's cheap, right? Because of how he's been playing over the last month or so. It's impossible to find people on here. Okay, I know Lanto is super cheap, right? Lanto, $6,100. I'm not personally going to be on tomorrow, but low ownership, plays in the PM wave. That's my biggest issue there. So I'm probably not the biggest fan there. Let's find Ben Griffin. There we are, $6,600. Another AM wave golfer, so I don't hate that much. The ownership is kind of there, right? He shot even par. He's in the top half of the field right now, but it's not that worrisome. It's 3.5%. Put him in 5 to 7% of lineups, and you have some leverage there. Yeah, I have no problems with Ben Griffin. I'm not there myself. It's just I can't play everyone. So let's look into shots gained, right? Let's do a little bit more of a deep dive on them for you. Let me bring up pjtour.com and we'll double check on that, because Ben Griffin is really driven by his irons. And if he's somebody that, played well with his long irons today, I don't mind going back. If it was all the putter, probably not my MO. He gained 1.4 strokes with the irons, about 0.9 strokes with the putter today. That's sustainable. Yeah, you can get to him. I have no problems with doing so. I personally kind of prefer like Sam Stevens. Now, Sam Stevens, I believe, is a little bit more expensive than what we have there, but I just prefer him personally. But hey, like I said, he's a solid play for sure. Billy Ho porked ya. Yeah, I avoided his ass like the plague. He had like the one good year here. He had a few other like top 15 finishes, but like just because he won last year doesn't mean he's just gonna snap out of form, because he's been dreadful. I mean, dreadful for quite some time. I took him as a play a few weeks ago, kind of hoping that he would snap out of it at like 1% ownership, and I was banging myself over the head by the time he was the whole 5. The guy's broken. So Yeah, I would stay away from him even at course horse kind of tracks until we see something. He's played well for like 4 or 5 holes at a time, but he's not getting it done. We got Crypto down there. What's going on? What's up, bro? Holy carnage for sure. Have you made a 13 on a par four? If I counted all my strokes and actually wrote down the score, I'm sure I have, especially early on in golf, but not to my memory. Yeah, Kuchar, Tom Kim. Yeah, I played some Tom Kim this week. Not great, but he honestly played horribly. He missed like every fairway. He missed every single green. I know he lost. Let's just take a look at the stats. They're horrible. He's injured. Honestly, there was a lot of reports that he was injured. I wasn't buying them. A lot of times we get those reports about golfers and they end up being baloney. Well, might be something to this, right? He lost about 3.7 strokes on approach today, about a stroke off the tee. Not his best stuff, right? So get him out of get right spot. Hopefully he can get some rest, get back to his normal baseline there. Before that, he was fine, right? He was striping the ball. He was doing all the things from tee to green. I would go right back to him if he was healthy, right? If he wasn't dealing with this injury. I'm actually fading him over there for some props tomorrow. So I'll be rooting on his downfall. He's clearly out of the cut line at this point. So I've jumped ship on good old Tom Kim. He's the GOAT. Love you to death, Tom. But yeah, you're probably injured. Pick one. Seabez, Putnam, or Jaeger. Jaeger for me. Definitely Jaeger. What happened to X-Man today? Trying to catch up. Played horribly. Let's look at the shots gained metrics. I faded him this week. I was hoping that he'd play horribly. So I have to say I'm not disappointed about it like you. But he lost on approach. He lost around the green. He lost with the putter. He was dog shit across the board. So it wasn't like it was one part of his game that was holding him back. It's not like Scotty Scheffler, right? So Scotty Scheffler shot 2 over par today, guys, but he gained from tee to green. He gained off the tee on approach around the green. Now, it wasn't crazy. It was less than a stroke in every single category, but he lost over 3 strokes putting, right? That kind of shots gained profile, I have no worries about, right? Just a bad day with the putter for Scotty. And frankly, are we surprised by that? I'm not, right? That's just kind of what happens to Scotty sometimes. The Xander Schauffele round, worrisome, right? I mean, the guy shot 5 over, and the only category he gained with was off the tee, where he did gain a stroke off the tee, so he was in position more often than not, and then was just completely unable to take advantage of it. So I worry about that. I would stay away. Luke List is a better putter than Scotty. Disagree. Hey, at least Scotty can gain from time to time, right? At least there's a few weeks where Scotty can gain a stroke or two to the field. Luke List cannot do that. How much did you enjoy that Rory triple? I played him this week, so I didn't enjoy it that much, to be frank with you, but he's still fine at even par. I played him in 20% of my lineups. So you probably thought I faded him because I played Rom and Scotty up top. I played all 3 of them. So I know I had a few other, I'm not going to call out the tout that was trying to dance on my grave. He's oh, we didn't play Rory today. Yes, I did. I played all 3 up top. Jaeger or Bez, that's Jaeger, man. I think the upside on Jaeger's there. Bez maybe a little bit more of a cash or maybe single entry kind of play. In terms of my player pool, we're not going to go through all of it. It is posted on my Patreon. If you want to know about specific players, you want to take a look at some certain ownership numbers, certain ownership ranges, just let me know, right? I can sort this by ownership. I can bring up the highest owned players. I can bring up just the players that are in my player pool. You guys just let me know what you want to see here. But in this middle tier range, it's all AM guys, right? JT for a little bit of a bounce back. Matt Fitzpatrick actually played pretty decently today, despite shooting +4. Had one real blow-up hole, made a few sloppy bogeys mixed in, but also had a lot of darts and some good putting mixed in. So really, I don't think he played nearly as poorly as what most people would expect. Only 7% ownership. You have Hideki here, only 10.3%. He shot even par, not sexy, but he made some birdies. He nearly made an albatross today with a long iron, which was pretty wild. I'm sure you saw that on the broadcast. And the ownership's pretty low. Get to him for some leverage. Sahith Theegala, only 11%. He came in way higher owned on main slate stuff than people expected. That happened in the reason why I love our week in review streams, guys, is we look back, we see where things went wrong. This happened with Sahith about 4 weeks ago. It happened 2 weeks ago, the last time that he played, and then it happened this time, right? And this time I was a lot closer on my ownership projection than the rest of the industry was on Sahith. There were people that had him at 6% ownership, and then he came in 16 to 17% in large field stuff this week. So at least I had him in the double digit range, right? Getting closer to the Corey Connors of the world. But I didn't think he would be higher owned than some of the other guys around here. So, obviously loved him, right? He was a core play for me for a reason, but that was surprising. I wanted to point that out. And it's why going back, reflecting on your ownership, reflecting on your player pool every single week is so important, or else you're not going to notice those kind of trends. And like a lot of those other sites that projected him for such low ownership this week, you're going to get caught. Right? And I even kind of got caught, but I didn't get caught as much as other people, is I guess the point, right? Down here in the 7K range, there's some chalk to avoid, right? Like Davis Riley, no reason to play him. Shane Lowry, I know he had a decent day today, but he's in the PM wave. You probably want to stay away from him. Wyndham Clark, Siwoo Kim. I mean, pretty much this whole range here, right, that played well. Well, it's because they were in the AM wave, right? And you're going to have a lot of slapdicks, especially in the large field GPPs, right, where you have a lot of the casuals playing these sort of players, right? Especially like the $5 GBPs, right? It's the $10 18 max, right? You have a lot of slapdicks that are playing these PM wave golfers. They're real easy fades, right? Take the guys that are playing in the morning wave. There's a reason why these guys got under par, right? It's because they had the nuts conditions in the morning. I'd rather take a few guys that maybe didn't, play as well today. That'd be like a Chris Kirk in the AM wave, KH Lee, Christian Bazane, who I've got in my poll. We got Ryan Fox down here, Steven Yeager. I mentioned them as, some high upside plays. That's the idea here. So it's not rocket science, right? Like Davis Riley's getting some attention. Maybe you fade him in favor of some of the more lower owned guys around him. It's our usual, round 2 showdown, right? Round 2, round 3 showdown, pretty similar kind of strategy. Fade the guys at the tip top of the leaderboard. Try and take some pivots in the good weather, and you've got yourself a winning, plus EV strategy going forward. So unless there's any questions about specific players, let's get into some lineup construction stuff. Where are we at down there? Rom played okay and still shot -2. Yeah, him and Scotty are insane, right? Like Scotty, I know he gained from tee to green, but he really shouldn't have. He was a loser in all 3 categories in the morning wave, and then by the afternoon, went from slightly negative to a positive in those 3 categories. He's even disgusting when he's horrible, right? He shoots +2. All of these guys are. The whole top of the leaderboard, right? What Jason Day was, Xander Schauffele were the 2, I guess, exceptions, right? They really couldn't keep their rounds together. Matt Fitzpatrick as well. This whole top of the board is just disgustingly good. Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, man. Would you go back to KH Lee? I would, for sure. Fading your boy? I am. That's correct. He's getting some ownership, and I don't know. It's more of like a life hedge, right? I fade him in Showdown. He ends up, burning me tomorrow. I'm still going to be happy my boy's out there, probably in the lead of this golf tournament, but he's one off the lead. He's going to have some pressure because of that, and he's the highest owned player in this range. So, yep, game theory fade, not taking my guy Jordan. And for props, I might try and stay away. I might take his birdie prop, something like that, try and get a little bit of exposure, something like that. But yeah, in Showdown, at least in this kind of format, it's more of a game theory thing, and it's unfortunate. They posted bogeys for round 2. I saw that. They're all a lot higher. They're all like 3 bogeys, even 3.5 bogeys. And they have the same kind of strokes up there. So yeah, we'll touch on that here in a second. Do we play all AM? That's what I'm thinking, JG, unless you're in a single entry kind of contest, higher dollar kind of thing. I mentioned, I did a little spiel on this, I'd say 15 minutes ago. But yeah, if you're in one of those higher dollar contests, the argument for playing like one of these 2 guys up top is that everyone's going to play these AM wave golfers, right? Like they're going to do their research. They're going to see the same thing that we do with the weather, right? Where it's definitely advantageous to take the guys that are playing early. But they might become better plays because Rom might be 15% owned. Scotty might be like 6-7% owned in the 5-5-5 tomorrow when it comes to Showdown. That, if I knew that Scotty was going to be like 7% owned, I'd still play him in the PM wave. Like I would. Like if you told me in the big GPP that Scotty was going to be 7% owned, I would play him in all of my lineups, honestly. In the large field GPP, I would just make that my leverage point, right? I would say, screw your weather. Scotty Scheffler's the world number 1, world number 2, any given week that you're looking at it. Screw your weather edge, right? That's not the case, right? I still have him at 17%. So that's why we're not doing that. But if you were in a single entry, one of those high dollar contests, I couldn't knock you for doing that. Let me just say that. The game theory makes sense. You're impressed by Snedeker? Yeah, me too. Coming back from the injury, and he's what, +1 at this point for sure. JT is checked out, pathetic back nine. Yeah, he helped us out with the bogey props today, but unfortunate for a fan like myself that wants to see him play well. Let's take a look at this DraftKings board and talk through some cash plays. So if you're playing cash tomorrow, I would go all AM wave, right? If there's a 2-shot advantage between the 2 waves, I would think you would be kind of crazy not to try and lock that in. I don't hate getting to a Cantlay in cash. I think he's probably the best starting man. Terrell hadn't hit it beautifully today. I think he's a great second man in. Down here in the 8K range, you want somebody going off early that played decently today, right? So, Jordan Spieth fits both of those boxes. So we could throw him in there. Top end, even middle of the part of the 7s. Let's go with Kirko. I wouldn't hate that, but Davis Riley, right? He played super well. He's going off early, $7,100. These are the kind of players I would get to in a showdown kind of contest. So at least for cash, right? Not for just any type of showdown, at least for a cash double up kind of contest. And we're talking GPPs. That's where we start to mix in the plays from before, right? I'm still tacking a lot of AM golfers, but we're not just taking the Jordan Spieths of the world, right? The Davis Rileys of the world. We're more trying to pivot, right? So let's say we started with the same 2. Let's go with Cantlay. As a second man in, let's be a little bit more expensive about it. Let's go ahead and take Rory 2. Let's go ahead and take 2 studs in this kind of lineup. You don't want to take like the Davis Rileys, right? You don't want to take the guys that are -3 in contention. Also in the AM wave, this is where like a Bazane Hoot, little sneaky Seabez, right, comes in handy. Let's see, up here in the top end of the 7s, this is where like a Chris Kirk, little sneaky Chris Kirko comes into play, right? This is where you just mix in 1 or 2 pivots. And you make a lineup. This could be for a large field GPP. This could be for a single entry kind of contest. I wouldn't hate it. I guess what I was mentioning before is like in a large field, I keep saying large field, sorry, high dollar, higher stakes kind of contest. Maybe you mix in like a Scotty Scheffler because everyone's going to be taking the AM wave golfers. You can still take AM wave golfers with like 5 or even like just 4 of the 6 spots that you're taking. But in those kind of builds, there might be utility in doing that. I just want to point that out. So it's not for everyone, right? If you're not playing one of those real expensive entry kind of contests, that's probably not something you have to worry about there. Let's catch up on questions and then hop into props here. So if you have any DFS stuff, throw it down in chat if you have any questions. But if we don't, we'll hop into these props, which I love on Underdog. Underdog's got a board that looks juicy, at least for what I've entered so far, and we just got a prize picks drop. So let me go ahead, take a look at this board here for a second, and then we'll get to some commentary on it. It's interesting. I'll just say that the board's interesting up top. We have guys at 3 birdies. We do. Expected that. Honestly, I thought we might get guys 2 birdies. We'll see. 71.5 for Scotty. It's about a stroke higher. Colin and Victor, I got for overs on Underdog at 71. That's good to see. Let's keep going down this board. Bottom end guys, still 72.5. How does that make sense? How are they going to have... I guess the waves are factoring in here a lot. So a lot of these bottom end golfers, like a Hoagie or AM wave golfer, right? So they're only 0.5 strokes higher than a Morikawa, but it's also because of when they're playing. So they've clearly at least somewhat built in the AM wave advantage here. PM wave guy like a Bennett's at 74 strokes. Yeah, 73 for Cebu. Like there's no reason, right, that Cebu should be priced higher than somebody like Tom Hoagie, at least in a vacuum. But then when you look at the tee times, it makes sense. Interesting. So what we have to try and do here is snipe value based on tee time, right? See if there's sites that haven't adjusted for the tee times. Prize Picks has adjusted for it, is kind of what I'm getting at here, right? Based on what we're looking at. Underdog has not. I've already looked at that board. I've already gone completely through it. Yeah, Prize Picks definitely has, right? Like 4 birdies for Jordan Spieth, and he's playing in the morning wave. Like you would not see that on Underdog. I believe he's at 3.5. Let's see. Yeah, still 3.5 birdies. I took overs in Colin and Victor, right? They're already off the board, right? At 71 strokes. Let's find a few more PM guys to fade. So these top 2 players, they're at 71.5 on Prize Picks. Like that's how crazy this is, right? Tom Hoagie, right? An AM wave golfer is at 72.5 strokes compared to 71.5 for these 2. Honestly, even in the AM wave, I hate to do it, Hoagie. I like you this week. I played you. You might be a wave in the, a fade in the AM wave even. Like, it's just, this is a difficult track. So the prize picks board, I would say, is a little bit more difficult to tackle than what we have over there in Underdog, but that's not to say there's, not value to be had. Let's take a look at these other categories. Much lower, at least 0.5 lower than what we had for round one. Actually, I'd say probably even an entire green regulation lower, because you have guys at 10.5. You have guys at 10, even 9.5 greens down there. And this also looks like they have adjusted for the tee times. I have to say, this Woodland AM Wave, not the worst idea. Let's keep that one in the cart. I don't hate that. Woodland can hit himself a green regulation. That's for damn sure. And only 10 of 18. The average I know here is right around 10.5. But Gary Woodland is a much better than average iron player. And will have the AM conditions. That might just be a little diamond in the rough there. But let's keep taking a look. This fairways board looks significantly lower than round one, which unfortunately is the move. This year, guys, they cut the fairways even tighter than before. Jordan Spieth was the first one that pointed it out to me. None of the commentaries brought it up. None of the previews this week. I never heard anyone mention that they were narrowing the fairways, but they did. They were at least 10 yards narrower per Jordan Spieth. They were about half the size on some holes, what he was saying out there, which was why it played a little bit more difficult today, I would imagine, and also why the fairway percentage was significantly lower. So when we take a look at some of these, now I'm thinking we have some unders to try and tackle. And like a Xander Schauffele, like we'll take a look at how he drove the ball today, but he didn't play particularly well. I can't imagine he hit many fairways. He hit 9 of his 14, and that was the best part of his game, right? He still gained a stroke off the tee. Probably not the worst idea for an under there. But let's keep looking at this board. Guys at 9 that are pretty accurate drivers. Victor, maybe not the most accurate, so we could take a look at that. I kind of want to calculate the field average. I'm imagining if they're posting some of these guys down here at like 8.5, 8, the field average wasn't really all that good. So let's look at Adam Scott. Let's look at Sam Burns. Try and get a figure for how some of these like earlier tee times got it done. So what did Adam Scott shoot? He shot like a couple under, right? Yeah, -2. How many did he hit? He hit 8. Yeah, right. So not very many. And that was still in the morning conditions. Sam Burns, can't imagine hit many either. Yeah, only 7 of his 14. And they're down there at like 8.5. Yeah, so these two are standing out to me right now over there in prize picks. We'll probably add a few more as we go through some questions down there in chat. Always worth taking a look at the bogey props. They have them at 2.5 for some of these top end players. Oh boy, I'm about to fuck up some of these bogey props over here. 3 bogeys make sense. 3.5. It's kind of what I was expecting for these guys. But I didn't think they'd have guys at 2.5, or at least a bunch of them at 2.5. Let's look. So these guys at 2.5, they got Cantlay, AM Wave, Rory, AM Wave. Not the best. And then, of course, it's Scotty and Rahm. So, okay, at least they picked the good guys to put at 2.5 bogeys. But I couldn't really talk you off of just fading all of these, right? Just taking the unders on all 4 of those players. I don't know if I have the stones to do so myself, but I would at the very least consider that for my own lineups. Let's see what's going on down there in chat. See if there's any questions. It's +6 now. Is a guy at +6 dead for the cut line? I don't think so. The cut line over here on Data Golf, I think, is full of shit. They have it at like +3, +4 right now. The weather for tomorrow looks even worse than it was today. The scoring average in general, right, was +2 over par. The cut line's already almost at +3, right? It's only 7 spots off of +3. I think it's at least a +4 cut line, which means if you're +6, right, you can shoot -2 tomorrow. Now, you're trying to shoot -2 on a golf course that's going to be difficult, so it's not easy to go out there and do that, but it's not impossible, right? That's why, like, Scotty Scheffler, for example, has like an 84% chance of making the cut. In reality, I think it's closer to like 95% because they're factoring in like a -3 cut line. Sorry, a +3 cut line. I think it's going to be like +4, maybe even +5 tomorrow. So I guess me and Data Golf just disagree there a little bit, which is okay. Let's see. That was the last question. Lipsky tomorrow, early playing, and yeah, he's playing well, but he's chalky, right? So if we look at Lipsky, he's what, like -3 at this point, I believe. Let's find him on here. Yeah, -3, $6,500. I guess I only have him at 3.6%, so I'm not completely against it, Mark, but I have a guy right next to him in pricing named Lee Hodges that I like a little bit more because he's 3.5 times lower owned and playing decently well himself, right? He's also even par. And it's hard to back up a good round, right? Like David Lipsky shooting 3 under par was probably a ceiling performance for him, right? Especially considering how difficult the conditions were this afternoon. It's hard to back that up. Whereas Lee Hodges kind of just shooting, a little bit better than the tour average, a little bit better than the field average. I feel like it's a little bit easier to back up. So I'm taking the lower owned guy there. Any underdog picks? Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Honestly, the ones that I put in before, I feel really good about. Let me go ahead and refresh my screen here. If you're on the Patreon, I posted about half an hour ago with some of the stuff I was taking. But yeah, they're going to start bumping a bunch of stuff here. Like they had Sam Burns at 72. They've already moved that up. They had Tom Kim at 72.5. They've moved that to 73. There's probably even more PM stuff that we could take fades for. Like they have Cam Young at, 72 strokes. Like I love my boy Cam Young. I hope he plays well, but it's going to be tough sledding out there tomorrow afternoon, right? And even if he shoots 2 over par, he's probably still making the cut at +4. So I don't know. Might have to root against my boy. I had to put these feelings aside, right? It doesn't matter what I, hope to have happen tomorrow. The fact of the matter is it's going to be difficult out there. So even rookie, right? I'd probably consider for a fade in this situation. The only thing keeping me off of that is this bogeys prop might even be better to get to. So I'm going to do some line shopping here in a second, see what we got him at over there in Prize Picks. Because if memory serves me correctly, right, he's at what, 3.5 birdies over 3.5 bogeys over here? Yeah, he's at 3.5 bogeys on Underdog. It might be the move. And what's his strokes line, just for the sake of argument here? Where you at, Ricky? 73. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fade these two, aren't I? What's Cam Young's strokes line? Is he 72.5? See, maybe we avoid the Cam Young one because he's at 72.5. Let's find another one to fade that's a stroke difference. Oh boy, they're probably moving a bunch of them, huh? You're gonna have to be quick about this. We already played the Morikawa and Hovland ones. They bumped those. We already know the top ones are a stroke difference, but it's one of the goats out there. They don't have a bunch of PM Wave golfers up there, right? We've already faded a lot of them in cards that I've put over there on Patreon, Prize Picks, that kind of stuff. Maybe we fade the bogeys line because even if he plays well, he doesn't cover that. Now I'm undecided here. Let's do some shopping. I wish they posted more people, right? I wish they had more than, I think, like the 14 to 15 people they usually post for every single round. That would be great. What is Sanjay's strokes line? He's at 72.5. Well, look at that. That's the stroke differential that we're looking for value. So let's put those two in there, lock in some value. My max bet over here, what they allow me to bet, is $250. So that's a quote unquote max bet for us. Let's see. They have Jordan at 71 strokes. He's at 71.5. I like looking at these discrepancies because I tend to agree with this Prize Picks board where like even pars are going to be a good round for a lot of these PM Wave golfers. The AM Wave stuff is the one that I've got to look into a little bit more. Like there's potentially some overs for birdies are better that we want to take in the AM Wave. And if I was going to do that on any site, it would probably even be Underdog because let's see, they have 3.5 birdies, right, for Jordan Spieth tomorrow morning. He's at 4 birdies over here on Prize Picks. So, Prize Picks really thinks it's going to be easy in the morning, and they think the afternoon is going to be exceptionally difficult. Whereas Underdog's kind of like in the middle for both waves, right? So if you were to attack fades for the PM and then potentially overs for some of these morning wave golfers, like I think that's the move because look at this. They have like Cantlay at 4. They have like Jordan at 4. Like, you guys know I love my boy Jordan. I talked about potentially going with an over for his birdies. Like, maybe that's how we attack it, right? We go after a few, positive stances in the morning, and then the afternoon we just go with all fades. So let's throw him in there. Let's throw Cantlay in there. Oh boy, I hate to take the 2 chalk donkeys out there, but we're doing it. It's good value, right? We're comparing it over the Prize Picks, and the wind conditions, the receptiveness of the greens is going to be there in the morning hours. I think there's something to that. So that's probably going to be our strategy for props, guys. It's going to be to kind of differentiate it over here in Underdog and try and take advantage of the split that we know is going to be there, right? We saw it in day 1. We know the weather's going to be there in round 2. And I think they're crazy for not pricing the board like that. Quality intel on Lee Hodges. Yep, I like him. You took Vic and Colin over 71. Yep. You took Fowler and Young over 72. Yeah, I like the Sunjay one, especially because there was a whole stroke difference between the two waves. But let's find some more stuff on here. The morning wave stuff intrigues me, especially because they have guys at 3 birdies on here. Like that's borderline disrespectful. Let's see. So Keegan's at 3 over here. What's he on Prize Picks? Is he 3.5? Makes sense. That's where I would put him. Let's look at Corey Connors. Is he at 3.5 as well? Yes, he is. It's crazy how they're doing this. I don't know if I'm going to play this myself. I want to look at the birdie or better average, but it's at least, let's put it up there and let's just add it up. So I'm going to go over to my calculator. This is going to take me a minute over here to add up, but I'm going to give you the exact birdie or better average today, right? And this is how I do it. I go over here to Data Golf, look at the percentages of birdies or better, and literally just add them up. So it's super simple to do. I could probably do it in my head because it's not going to be a very big number. Let's do it. 0.22. I don't want to. I don't want to do this in my head because then it's gonna be nothing being said for a while. But okay, just deal with the silence here for a minute. All right, pretty good birdie average actually compared to what I was expecting here. 4.7 plus 5. Yeah, way better than I was expecting. Okay, so birdie better average was like 3.11. I was probably off by at least a few decimal points. I did that as fast as I could, but something in the 3.1 range. And if that's the case, right, these AM Wave golfers, right, they probably had a higher birdie or better average, probably by at least 0.1, 0.2 birdies. Keegan Bradley, Corey Connors aren't monsters when it comes to making birdies. But I do have to think that they can go out there and at least get something done in the morning wave. So I'm going to lock those in. I like the push equity at the very worst. One part about, I don't want to show all my slips, right? Actually, I guess I can. They already got bumped. We have this going on, by the way. So it just started. This actually just started a few minutes ago. And look at that. We've got 1 assist for Jokic already and 5 points for Butler. You love to see it. But the point is, these two, they bring up a lot of push equity. Over here in Underdog, if either one pushes, this will be an automatic refund. And I do think there's a lot of push equity to be had. So let's say one went under, right, and one pushes, it'll be a refund. If one goes over and it pushes, it's also a refund, which can be kind of annoying. But I feel like you get helped out more than it hurts you. So, yeah, I like those two. Let's see what else we can find. Like, it's a weird slate. Like, there's overs and unders I like, and it's all based on the weather. Which the weather, by the way, if you haven't been doing DFS for a while, can be a bitch. Let's just put it that way. It can bite you in the ass, that's for sure. So you don't want to overplay it, which I'm trying to be as careful not to do right now. But when there's a 2-stroke difference between the two waves, it's hard not to fall into that, right? It's hard not to go out there and try and take advantage of it. Let's see. So these guys at 70.5, I guess are the ones that you kind of got to make a decision on. They've got to shoot 2 under par to kill us here, right? And Scotty, he could still shoot 2 over par and make the cut tomorrow, right? If I think it's going to be at least a +4 cut line, that means he could shoot 74 and still go out there and make the cut. I mean, hopefully he gets himself into contention, right? I played him in DFS this week, but these 70.5 lines, maybe I wait to add these on. I'm probably not going to enter these right now. I'm probably going to wait to see the morning wave, see how conditions are, make sure that no tee boxes are like way moved up, make sure that none of the pins are just super easy pins, like a little cakewalk setup like they tend to do from time to time. If it's set up like it was yesterday, we're getting these PM wins. Yeah, these 70.5 numbers would have to be a lean towards the over too. So I wanted to point those out. In terms of the Prize Picks exposure, I know I haven't added much over here yet. What was the other prop we had on there? It was for greens regulation, right? No, we already have them on there. That's right. It was for fairways. That's right. It was Xander under. These are my main 2 leans at this point, but I feel like the value's on Underdog, right? Like Prize Picks has seemingly adjusted for the weather, and then Underdog hasn't. So it almost feels like you're forcing in bets over here, right? Because the guys that are in the PM are worse projections than Underdog, and then the guys that are in the good weather are better, projections of what they have in Underdog. It just feels like it's harder to squeeze that value out of it. So I don't know what you guys think on that end, but that's what I'm looking at. Branica says, what about a Luke Donald? He played pretty decently. Kind of surprised me. I do think he'll get a little bit of ownership, but let's take a look at the exact numbers I've got him at. Good old Luke Donald. He's the Ryder Cup captain, so he's trying to lean into that form. It looks like $6,100. I only got him at 0.6%, so I don't know what I was talking about with high ownership. Yeah, he's hardly getting owned at all. Morning wave golfer. Let's look at the shots gained metrics. That's really the one thing we got to worry about with Luke Donald, right? Just make sure it's not all the putter that was getting it done for him. Where are we at? There we are. Good old Luke Donald with the Mizuno hat. Love a good old Mizuno driver. Gained a bunch on approach and slightly gained with the putter. Yep, that's very much so on brand for him. I wasn't considering him until this point, but I think you might have talked me onto him. I like the shots gained metrics. If it were all putting, let's say it was like 2.5 strokes putting, maybe that would worry me a little bit. If he had been gaining off the tee or around the green, maybe that worries me, but it's not. It's the most sustainable type of shots gained profile that we can get. So I like that quite a bit there. In terms of the bogeys props, these guys at 3.5 bogeys, they make sense, especially some of the guys that make bogeys like a Sahith Theegala, but you don't have that many PM golfers to choose from, right? We got Ricky on there. I feel like the strokes fade on Underdog's a better way to go about that rather than the bogeys fade over on this end. Guys like a Sanjay, same thing, right? He's at like 71.5 strokes. I just feel like that's probably a better way to go after this fade. Towards the bottom end, you have like Kurt Kitayama. Like he's kind of out of contention. He's probably going to be disengaged tomorrow. I don't hate this one. Let's see if we can find a few other guys that maybe aren't going to be as engaged as other players. What is Batia's score? I feel like Batia didn't play that well today. I might be off base saying that, but that's what my intuition is telling me. Yeah, +1, so he didn't play horribly. No, he'll still be into it. Can't knock him for that. That wouldn't be fair for good old Akshay. Let's see what else we've got. Not many PM golfers. Griot. Maybe after his win, he's got a little bit of a hangover, but he is at like even par at this point. Harris English has played well, so that's probably not the case there. Lowry, right? These guys are in the PM wave, but it's not like they're going to completely eject from this event, right? They're still in contention, trying to make a cut. Even Jason Day, right, who shot +4, +5 today, he's got a lot of friends and family that'll be there watching him tomorrow. Like he's not going to completely give up. So these three are, I guess, the main props I'm looking at, and honestly might be the ones that we fire for the stream here. So let's see. That would be a 5X for little 3-man right there. Let's run it. Let's run that for $100 little parlay. Oh, I've hit my max for the day, apparently. Maximum daily amount is $500. Noted. Okay. I guess we can't do that. So we'll leave it there. I've got to wait to enter my prize pick stuff. That's part of the reason that I hate prize picks, right? Is they set this limit on me. I can't even enter slips until after midnight. I can't enter any of this over here on Underdog, unfortunately, right? They don't have, I guess if they had Kurt Kitayama on the board, maybe we could enter their bogey props. But yeah, no greens regulation or fair was hit yet. So we'll have to wait for the no house advantage board. I can't play an NHA because they have me at a $50 limit there. These sites got to stop doing that, right? If they want to have me do content for them, if they want me to go on here and stream and go through boards, but they can't ban me from their site, right? They can't limit me down to not being able to play, or else they're not going to get that exposure. So maybe that'll wisen them into shape, get them out there, actually letting me show off their website. But let's see. Do I play Luke Donald? I think so, man. You kind of talked me onto him when I was looking at their shots gained metrics. Yeah, he's in the AM wave, even par. No one's going to play him. I have him at like 0.6% owned. I think you're onto something there, man. But until next time, guys, appreciate all the support here on the channel. Smash that like button on the way out. We'll be doing streams from rounds 3 and 4 as well. We'll be going through Showdown, props, all of your questions, so on and so forth. And of course, at the end of the week, we'll be doing our weekly live stream with the review, right? We'll be going through all of my projections, all my lineups, kind of like we did for this week to put it all in a bow, right? I talked a lot about it here about looking at the review, taking a look at past ownership numbers, trying to look at some of the trends that happen in these large field GBPs. And if you want to make sure that you're also right doing those deep dives, right, going through all that with us, we'll make sure you stop by that live stream on Monday morning as well. It's usually at 9 a.m. Sometimes I push it back to like 9:30, 10 a.m. Eastern time there on Monday morning. But that'll be posted on my social media. You guys will know when I'm going live. Make sure to check that out as well. Appreciate you, Mark. You got locks of love not show up today. I'll be doing that. Yeah, I was supposed to do that this morning. We're still doing that this week. It might be tomorrow. Don't want to guarantee it, right? Because I said that yesterday, it didn't happen today. Just might be tomorrow. I come on here with a much different haircut. But yeah, a lot of that's GPP based. Because I finished in second, I feel like it's a bad luck charm. So I'm cutting the hair in hopes of changing up the juju. No joke. By the way, I wanted to avoid saying it the other day, but that's literally what I'm doing. So until then, best of luck, guys, and I'll check you guys out next time.